everybody. Cheers. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Trades Lady Happy Hour, the weekly Instagram live show where I get to meet and hang out with and introduce you guys to another incredible woman in the trades. Trades women are definitely a minority, but we're a mighty minority. We are rapidly growing in numbers, and there's a ton of amazing women out there doing phenomenal work, kicking butt every day, and rarely getting acknowledged or a light shown on them. So this is really my way of shining a light on them. I've been really fortunate to kind of fall into television, to fall into having a platform, and it was really challenging for me growing up in the industry, not knowing anybody else like me. And I feel like it's my responsibility to take that gift that I've been given to turn it around and do something positive with it by sharing the light with the other amazing women that are out there who don't get the love and the credit and the support and often aren't supported by friends or family either. So this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm so grateful that you guys join in and come along on the ride with me each week, and have been coming back and hanging out to meet these incredible women, to hear their stories, to give them that space to be heard and be seen and be recognized, acknowledged, and celebrated. So cheers to all the amazing trades women out there. Cheers to you guys for hanging out with me. I've got to give a quick cheers to my sponsor, Drive Time, for their commitment to supporting women in the trades through this podcast. So very grateful to them, very grateful to you all. A lot of gratitude all the way around. Anyway, let's get going. Enough of me blabbing. So tonight we have a exciting guest. I'm really excited to meet her. I've not met her in person yet. Young woman, but very accomplished already. She is a A&P technician. However, she is currently running the kind of training at the body shop at a aircraft business. So kind of a cool deal. I think she's going to have some really interesting stories. She's done a variety of things, from collision to restoration to aircraft maintenance to now training. So I'm very excited to meet her. Her name is Katie. I'm going to mangle your last name, Katie. I'm so sorry. Rugiello? I'm bad. I should know how to pronounce your last name. Anyway, I will have you correct me once you get on this chat. I'm going to send an invite to you right now.
Hi.
There you are. There you are.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's so great to meet you.
It's great to meet you too. I was getting nervous when it said you weren't able to join. I'm like, oh no.
I know, I was trying to figure that out. I've never done Instagram Live, and then I saw the request for it. I'm like, how do I accept it?
What do you do? I love it. Well, thank you for, so we're like, this is a first time thing, right? First time
Yes.
Instagram Live. I love it. I appreciate you saying yes and agreeing to do this. So welcome. Did I pronounce your last name?
Ruggiero. So kind of like saying Cheerio, but with rug in front of it.
Ruggiero? Or
yes.
Ruggiero. Okay. I totally had it completely wrong. So sorry. What nationality is
People do it all the time.
I'm sure.
Italian.
Is it? Okay. I mean, I kind of guessed from the way it was spelled, but I was like, I have no idea. I'm just going to mangle it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Excuse me. So why don't you tell the fine folks at home what you do currently, professionally, just who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we'll dig into the details.
Okay, so I'm originally from Eastern Pennsylvania, so Easton, Allentown area, very close to New Jersey. I was born and raised there, and then almost a year ago, it'll be a year ago, this coming July, I moved to Michigan, and I currently work for Duncan Aviation. I started out there, my first 6 months, I was a paint technician 1. I was on the floor working with a whole bunch of different people, priming aircraft, doing complete overhauls, painting stripes, the whole 9 yards. It was such a fulfilling experience to see a plane come in, be stripped down to nothing, and then see a whole new paint design put on it, and being the one to actually do it. And so after about 6 months, a paint shop trainer position opened up, And it was actually suggested to me by the old trainer and my boss. He's like, hey, why don't you submit an application for it? And I'm like, I am definitely underqualified for this position, but sure, why not? Like, what's it going to hurt? They're going to tell me no, but I'm still going to have my same job.
Right.
And I put in for it. I competed against 2 or 3 other people that wanted the position, and thankfully I got it. They offered me the position, and I've been paint shop trainer since February.
How crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Has
thank you.
it been fun? Are you enjoying like the transition from being the doer to the trainer?
Yes, I'm very much enjoying the transition. It's been a little bit of a struggle at times because I didn't work out on the floor for a full year yet to really completely understand all the processes that we go through. But I had a good majority of it down, so it made the transition a lot easier. But I love who I work with. All of the team leads and the crew leads and upper management that I work with are all such nice people. And working with the techs on the floor, it's really awesome to see where people can apply their skills and meeting new people and exposing them to aviation. There's been so many new people that look at the paint shop as like their entryway into Duncan Aviation.
Okay.
And you can either stay in the paint department and excel there, or you can move around to other departments. And they come to Duncan and they're like, I had no idea this was even here in this town. I didn't realize I can come work here and work on aircraft just being like a regular civilian. And it's so nice to have that exposure to those people, to what the aviation industry really is.
That's phenomenal. How large of an organization is this that you're doing training on the regular? Forgive my ignorance for not knowing Duncan Aviation.
You're fine.
Forgive me. Tell like, how big is it? Are you training new people? Are you training current staff? Like tell me, how is this working?
So Duncan Aviation, I'll give a little background on that. We are the largest MRO in the United States, the largest family operated business for private and corporate aircraft. Oh, wow. And so we have a base in Battle Creek, Michigan. Lincoln, Nebraska is the main headquarters, and then a new shop out in Provo, Utah as well. So we have those 3 main bases and then a bunch of satellite shops scattered throughout the United States. And so we get aircraft from all over the country, all over the world even. I'll walk through the hangars and I'll see planes from Germany, Brazil, Czech Republic, so many different places. Wow. And so we're like a one-stop shop for aircraft is what I like to tell people. You can go in there, get a complete overhaul of your paint, and we have a design team that works with customers to get a fully customizable paint scheme for your aircraft. We'll do anything from maybe a couple stripes to, we had a plane recently, they wanted a carbon fiber design on it. And so we're able to do that. There's a plane that had a camo design put onto it and then a lumichrome paint. So it changes color based on the light. And so you can do complete paint overhaul and then get all of your regular systems worked on as well. Anything for all turbine engines on those aircraft, doing run-ups, overhauls, and then airframe as well. So we have structures technicians that work with sheet metal and composites, and then individual people who work on pneumatics and hydraulic systems too.
Wow. I have so many questions. I mean, forgive my ignorance, because you think about custom paint jobs and fancy stuff like that. You think about cars, right? Or boats even, but I don't think about airplanes. Are these both privately owned planes as well as companies and government type stuff, or is it it's all across the board?
Yeah, so we don't necessarily deal with airlines. We work with everybody that is just like, hey, I have money burning a hole in my pocket. Let's go buy like a couple $1 million jet. And so we had a plane come in from Playboy. It was originally Taylor Swift's plane. Playboy bought it. We did the whole paint design for Playboy. Wow. And then Hard Rock Cafe is there as well. We've had McDonald's, Dollar General, and then
how fun.
Yeah, and then plus celebrities as well. We've had a record of having Kenny Chesney. His plane was painted there. That was painted a year ago exactly. When I went to Duncan for my interview, it was sitting on our strip hangers about to be painted. So I'm
Nice.
like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So
Have you
yeah,
gotten to meet anybody famous?
no, not yet.
No. It's only a matter of time. It'll happen.
I know, I'm crossing
How
my fingers.
how on earth did you land here? You were an aircraft tech first, right? Like
Mhm.
how did you wind up doing paint for airplanes? Like how did this happen?
So I originally got my little painting bug from when I did automotive collision refinishing in high school for 2 years.
Okay.
And after high school, I took a gap year between going to college. I was really undecided what I wanted to do. I was stuck between a vet tech for a large animal vet or being an aircraft mechanic or maybe working in the automotive industry. Yeah, like one end of the spectrum to the next.
Although I feel like there's
But
some similarity. I mean, you either work with animals or you work with animals. People we
yeah,
work with sometimes.
I agree.
Kind of similar.
It
Interesting.
can be.
All right, so vet tech
Oh,
or collision. All right, so first of all, cheers to the fact that you're from like East Coast area. I'm from New Jersey, so I hear it in your accent just a little bit, like just a
oh,
little.
really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can hear it. It's subtle, but it's only because I know, right? Because I've got it
Exactly.
too. But you had collision in high school?
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was a really fun program. I got to look at that program and shadow it, and I thought it was amazing what the students were doing with learning how to paint and filling in dents, doing sheet metal work. My dad, he has done restorations his whole life, working on cars, motorcycles, trucks, tractors. My father is a jack of all trades,
Is that what
but
you went
he,
into it initially?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, even when I was little, my dad, he brought me, and my mom as well, they both brought me to air shows and air museums, and they had a love for aviation, and they just passed it down to me. And we just observed it from afar, never thought anything of it about getting an actual career into it. And when I was touring Penn College for their programs, they had an automotive restoration, auto collision, and then automotive like mechanic programs, and then automotive management program. And I was going through all of them and then just doing more research. I saw that Penn College had an aviation program. And so I'm like, oh, let's go check this out. This is going to be so cool. And went and shadowed it. I did 2 or 3 shadow days with the aviation program, absolutely fell in love with it. And I went through the program for about 2.5 to 3 years.
Okay.
And I got my certifications, did all the hands-on work in school, and I just still really wanted to paint. I craved it. It was a way for me to get my creativity out.
Yeah.
And I was able to have 2 separate internships while in college. One of them was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at Smoketown Airport. It's called Lancaster Aero. That place in general, they have painted aircraft that have won awards at various aviation shows. And I was so fortunate to be able to get an internship there. I was the first intern that they ever had there as
Wow.
well. Plus, the owner was a Penn College alumni for the aviation program, so it's even better. And it was a maintenance shop and paint shop all in one. And they just did small, low wing and high wing aircraft. And I loved it. And all the custom paint designs that they did for it, I that was the internship that really made me believe that painting was going to be the career for me. And after that one, I did a maintenance internship at a flight school in Allentown, Pennsylvania at Fly Gateway. And I loved it there as well. It was so great. I got to do internal timing of magnetos and install them on an engine, run the engine, and got it all nice and perfect on the first try, and got to do run-ups, and it was a totally different experience from my previous internship. So I got to see both sides of what it was going to be like in aviation, but at a much smaller scale compared to Duncan. But I was like, I still really want to paint. And so I saw that Duncan Aviation had a paint position open. I was studying that company for a year, and just looking at what their values were and how they were with leadership, their reputation. And we had a couple students from my aviation program. They did internships there and they had nothing but good things to say about it. And so I'm like, oh, like, let's just do it. I'm going to submit an application. What's the worst they're going to say? No, I can look for more jobs.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate. They accepted my application and I did Zoom interviews with them while I was in Pennsylvania. And they called me up and they're like, hey, we really want you to come work for us right now. Are you willing to essentially drop out of school and come work for us? And I'm like, oh, hold up, wait a minute. Let me get my certifications and my degree, and then I'll contact you again.
How flattering, though. That's amazing. They wanted you to drop out of school.
Yeah, they're like, how soon can you come work for us? I'm like, oh no, I didn't even I have to think about that a little bit.
Can I graduate first? I gotta graduate.
Yeah, for real. And then after that, I told them, it's like, oh, I really want to stay, get my degree, get my certifications, and then go from there. Like, we really respect that. We'll keep you in our files. And about a year later, I was still in contact with them. I was nearing my graduation. I just kept calling them. And I'm like, hey, do you guys have a position open for paint yet? They're like, no, not yet, but maybe we will here soon. And it was just like phone tag back and forth until they actually called me back and said, hey, we're going to be posting this job soon. We want to make sure to let you know, and that way you can reapply for it again. And I'm like, perfect. Oh, like the stars are lining up.
Nice.
And submitted my application again, and they were very fortunate enough to actually pay for a flight, hotel, and a rental car for me to go out there and spend a weekend out there doing my interviews and getting a tour of the shop. And I was able to bring my parents out there with me too.
Oh, yay. That's fun. What an that must have been really stressful, though. Like, you had this amazing offer from this company you wanted, and then you said no. And then there's this moment of like, I don't know if there's going to be another opportunity there, like how that's going to happen. Did you ever question your decision to stay and finish your degree at that point?
I did at the initial moment. It's like, oh, probably should have went and did it, but I know I would have regretted it if I didn't get my certifications and my degree. Like, I'm really, really glad I did that for myself.
Good. That's good. That's good to hear. I think it's good for a lot of other folks to hear too. Just that idea of like the persistence, right? Like, you made a difficult decision, you took a chance, and it all worked out in the end. And you stayed in touch with them and made it happen. So that's freaking phenomenal. What an incredible story.
Yeah.
I love that you got to explore all of these like different areas of things, from the automotive side to the automotive collision, and then wind up back to airplanes and experiencing the mechanical and the collision, and not collision, I guess, paint side of that. When you were younger and you were starting to do stuff in school, in high school, did you know that aircraft or aviation was like an option? Like, I think a lot of high schools don't really do that too much. They don't do aviation. They do body, maybe, if they're lucky, right? They do mechanical if they're lucky, but
Yeah, most high schools, especially where I grew up, there was no such thing. I did not think that aviation was going to be an option for me when I was younger. I thought you had to be rich and had a really good network to be able to get into aviation. I didn't know what kind of job opportunities were actually out there for it, but until I just did more research on it. But there are some high schools that do have an aviation program. I know there's a couple in New York that do that. And then I think a lot of colleges that have aviation programs as well, they go along with nearby high schools and travel all over to try and recruit from those high schools to go to their college for the programs. But yeah, either way, I didn't even know it was an option for me at the time in high school.
Yeah, like I would have not, it never would have even occurred to me when I was in high school that was a thing. And that was, taking auto shop still, like a lot of kids don't even know that automotive is an option for them, or collision is an option until they get exposed to it. Was it like when did you start researching aviation, or was it more like you showed up to check out the Penn, what's the name of your college you went to?
Pennsylvania College of Technology, or Penn College for short.
Penn College. when you showed up there and found out they had an aviation program where you're like, oh my God, this is it. Like, yes, duh.
Hmm. Yeah, I saw that they had the program. And I'm like, no way. Like, is this really an option for people? And just to look it up on the website, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like a legit program for students to enroll in. And to see that, I scheduled tours to go look at the program. It's like, this is it. Like, this is where I want to be. I'm gonna make good money here. It's gonna be cool experiences. And overall, it's been such a great industry to work for. I've met so many people throughout school and through my internships, and even now, people are just so nice. They are so supportive. They want, like, everybody wants to see you succeed in aviation, which is very, very nice. It's always nice to have that support.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think, sexism and all the isms, right? They show up in all different fields. But I feel like of the
Yeah.
aviation techs that I've spoken with, they tend to have more positive stories and positive experiences. Did you face any sort of pushback or resistance from anybody as a woman going down this road, or was it a non-issue?
I feel that I was very, very lucky. I did not receive much pushback going into a male-dominated trade. I felt I got along well with most of the guys that I worked with and all of the students that I was working with as well. Even the teachers, they were so thrilled to have a female in the program. In the aviation program, through I think maybe 75 to 80 students throughout 4 years
Wow.
that I was there. There was probably a total of only 4 or 5 students, including me, that were female.
Well, out of 80, that's
Yeah,
still
so we were
that's actually not bad. I hate to say that. It's a small number, but there were 7 out of like 3,000 when I went to tech school. So
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that.
yeah, it was crazy. That was a lot. So 4 out of 80, that's not bad, right?
Not bad, but it could also get better.
Yeah, it's still by
What was
far a
that like for
minority.
you?
It was interesting to say the least, but that's awesome to hear that it was such a positive reaction and that it was looked upon so well. Any issues getting jobs? It doesn't sound like it. I mean, every internship you applied for, you got. They sought you out, wanted you to quit college.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems getting jobs. I am very persistent. If I want something, I'm going to get it. The first internship that I did with Lancaster Aero, I was constantly emailing him. And I'm like, hey, do you have something available? Do you want to create an internship position for me? I'm really interested in working for your shop. Just like going back and forth, just like say something, like say no at least. But he was just like
Right.
leaving like just on a cliffhanger. And I was just very persistent with it. And I feel that goes along with anybody, especially females. As long as you're persistent with it and you show that you're very interested and you want to learn and show that you're putting effort towards it,
Yeah.
you're going to get that effort back.
I agree. There's a fine line, though, right, between persistence and annoyance. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what what are your recommendations for people as far as that goes? Like, how do you stay in touch and how do you stay persistent while being professional and not making it worse for yourself? What were the things that were successful for you?
I would just make sure to have like a somewhat emotional connection with those people. I would ask them about their day, like even like working in the position that I am now and conversing with other team leads and management throughout Duncan, like making that emotional connection with those people, they're able to trust you a little bit more so that way you can move up throughout the company. But when you're initially looking for jobs, I definitely like people don't put as much detail in their resumes as they should. Your resume is your way to complete, oh, God bless you. Your resume is your way to really sell yourself. Like, no matter what you did inside of school, outside of school, whether you were a dog walker, you worked with livestock, you held certain positions at a restaurant or your assistant, those skills can definitely form you into how you want to be successful
Yeah.
later on. And just making sure you're being very kind and courteous to people, and overall just showing interest. I feel like people that don't show any interest and they just view it as a job, you're not going to make it very far. It's just going to be, oh, it's a 9 to 5. I go to work every day, and it's going to be the same old boring thing. And so that's what really did it for me. I looked at Duncan Aviation as a career for me, and even working in the paint shop, like, it is my career, and I take pride in my career. And so that's why I was able to get to the trainer position too. I loved it so much. I love telling people about what I do and the opportunities that it granted me, and even the risk to move from home and leave everybody that I loved there to move to a new state that I've never been to before. Just being able to go out of your comfort zone, show interest, take pride, like, that's really how you can get in touch with the company. And doing that, everybody that I work with now, they put the same amount of effort back into me.
That's phenomenal and so well said. So very true. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you actually care about what you're doing and when you actually want to be doing
Yes.
it, right? And you care about who you work with. I feel like I was just having that conversation with somebody recently about authenticity, right? Like, it's one thing to go through the motions and say the things, right? I love my job. Nice to meet you, right? But when you actually do love your job and you actually do care about the people who you're talking to and the people you work with, then, like, everything else kind of just falls into place. Authenticity. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Even now, it's great too. I get to sit in on interviews and help interview people now for our paint shop. And it's definitely a very weird contrast to have been in that seat less than a year ago, and then to sit in the management seat actually interviewing someone to come work for us. And at that point, I can definitely notice differences in how people really carry themselves. Like, I've noticed a significant difference on whether you care about having a job or you care about having a career.
What are some of the horror stories, if you don't mind sharing, like, that you've seen in interviews where you're like, seriously, what are you doing?
Fortunately, I haven't had any horror stories yet with an interview. Everything has gone fairly well so far. Knock on wood.
Are you doing the hiring yourself? Or are you sitting?
No, not completely myself. I'm just sitting in on the interviews and asking questions, and then pretty much just our standard interview questions that we have, and then giving my feedback at the end of it, but I'm not doing the direct hiring.
Gotcha. Maybe this is a little, like, there's other things I want to talk about, but I have to ask just from your perspective, because you are insightful and you're well spoken, and I think you have an interesting perspective on things. Are there things that you feel like in sitting in on these interviews where, like, people, like, unhire themselves, right? Like, they had the opportunity and they say the wrong thing. Like, what are the things that lose people their jobs or lose the opportunity to get hired? Am I making sense?
So to lose the opportunity to get hired, you're pretty much just sitting there. You're not making eye contact with people. You're giving the same answer for each question. Like, we have a question that we ask, like, how many tardies or call-ins would you have acceptable within a month? Some people have said, like, oh, I mean, if someone wanted to call in every day for a legitimate reason, they could do that. No, that's not necessarily how that works. And, like, some other people would say, oh, I'd say at least like 10. Like, that's like a quarter, a third of a month. So, like, that's one thing. But I've had some people come to an interview, they had a notepad, they're sitting very straight, proper, looking at everybody. We try to do a little camaraderie as we're sitting at the table, like all of the management members, and kind of making fun of each other, making jokes. And as long as we visibly see that person, like, oh, they're calming down a little bit, they're not as tense, they're kind of joining in on it, like, that shows how relatable that they are too. And then also expressing interest outside of work as well. So like obviously I work in a shop filled with guys, and so they love to hunt, grill, and like go out fishing. And so just to know that little bit of information about yourself as well can kind of make it easier to get into our shop culture as well.
That makes sense. How
Mm-hmm.
much
And then
employee? Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, but even to like get fired or quit, I've noticed a lot of people, they're just not thankful for the opportunity that they have, or they're very, very greedy for money, but they're not greedy for work, like
Mm,
to actually work hard.
right. I want all the money, but I don't want to put in all the work.
Yep.
Yep. That's fair. All right. Very cool. How many employees? How large of a shop is this that you're at?
So the paint shop itself, we currently have around 80 to 85 people,
Oh
but
wow.
then I think facility wide, we have 300,
My goodness.
maybe 500.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And are there paint shop trainers in all of the different locations around the country, or are you like the hub? Are they sending people to your location for training as well?
So there aren't any other paint shop trainers at any of the other locations. I'm not getting any influx of people for training from me. I'm just the only trainer that Michigan has, essentially.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. And may I ask, am I allowed to ask how old you are?
It's 23.
Seriously? You're a
Yeah.
baby.
I know. I know. I'm a baby because everybody else that I work with is like the next youngest person in the shop is 25 and everybody else is in their 30s or 40s. And I'm like, I'm a little baby.
You are. That's incredible, though, that you're advancing so much already. That's a huge
Thank you.
testament to who you are. Has is it interesting training people who are older than you?
It is a little bit. It was nice. The past set of trainees that I had, they were relatively close to my age. Well, actually now one of the trainees, he's 22, so he's a year younger than I am. But it's definitely a bit of an interesting dynamic training other people that are much older than me, but it hasn't really been a problem whatsoever. Everybody comes into the shop and they're like, okay, like you're the trainer. That's pretty cool. Like you're 23 and you're a girl doing this. Like, that's cool. I should probably listen to you. So they're very respectful of it. And so it just makes the process so much easier and they're very willing to learn.
I'm floored, honestly. Like that you're having like seriously, that is amazing and so awesome to hear. So awesome to hear that nobody is batting an eye at you being young, at you being female, at any of it. It sounds like an amazing company to work for.
It really is. Like when I first got the trainer position, it was a little bit of a tough transition getting into it because I haven't been there a year. I don't completely know all of our processes for painting. And it was, I got a little bit of like the side eye from people. It's like, oh, she hasn't been here a year and she's already the trainer. What the heck? But as soon as like they started to realize that like I'm here to help them and I'm trying to do the best that I can and thanking everybody for helping me out all the time, it definitely, I'm connecting more with people and my crew leads and just getting better relationships with them. So that was a little bit of a struggle at first, but everything is like really working out well.
I love it. I swear I'm switching to aviation at some point, or maybe in my next life. Everybody has such positive stories about aviation.
Oh, I know. And even working for Duncan Aviation, it's great. You don't have to have your airframe and power plant license to work for them either. If you wanted to come into Duncan Aviation and do our apprenticeship, you could have a full-time job and study, and they'll give you all the necessary study materials and send you down to a school to get your AMP, but then you still come back to Duncan and you'll get a pay raise for what you're
Wow,
making.
that's
Mhm.
phenomenal. So I
Yep.
take it they
And
don't have an issue finding people. Like I feel like everybody in the trades is looking for employees, right? They're looking for tradespeople.
yep.
Do you struggle with that, or is this system that they've found really been the solution to it?
We, like, company wide, we're struggling looking for people. Like, we definitely want to have more A&P mechanics apply for our position, or at least other positions in Duncan. So I'm not sure how other departments are doing with recruitment, but I know paint's struggling a lot. We actually look towards people who have auto body experience working for our paint shop. Majority of our paint shop all has auto body experience. I'm myself and two other people, we are the only ones that have any kind of aviation background whatsoever. Everybody else was all auto body.
Interesting. And how are
Mhm.
they finding it? Like, how are they finding their way to aviation from doing automotive?
A lot of it is word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't, like, we're getting a billboard put up somewhere in Battle Creek, Michigan right now for Duncan Aviation, but a lot of it has been word of mouth, just like, oh, hey, I know that guy works at Duncan and he told me it's a great company. And they're like, oh, you don't need an A&P to work for us. And I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, submit an application, do an interview. So a lot of word of mouth so far, and then a lot of advertising online as well. Plus, LinkedIn is a very big resource for people.
You're stealing all the automotive body tax, huh?
Yep.
I don't blame you, honestly. I don't blame the folks that are leaving the automotive side. It's a different world. Automotive is a
Mhm.
different world than the aviation side. How did you
Mhm.
how did you handle those moments when you were first starting out in training and you were getting those kind of side eye looks that you talked about? Like, why is she getting this so soon? She hasn't been doing this long enough. Did how did that affect you? How did you handle it?
I felt very insecure, a lot of self-doubt. It's like, oh, is this really the right thing for me? Should I have really taken this position so soon? And it's like, ah, just like I'm kind of regretting it, but I'm also not regretting it. And it was kind of a tough transition, but my managers were very supportive. The old trainer, he was very supportive on it as well, and knew that I'll be really good at the job. So to have that support from somebody to say, I believe in you, that made it so much better. But I just stayed persistent with it, and I just kept talking to everybody. And I'm like, I know I'm new. I really want to help you guys out. I just want to make it easier on everybody else working in the shop. And I made that clear for everybody. I was telling them that almost every day. It's like, I just want to make your lives easier. Let me know how I can do that. And they're like, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm just constantly out on the floor working with everybody. Granted, I have to have my time work in the office on paperwork and other little housekeeping things, but if I'm not in the office or I don't have anything to do in the office, I'm going to be out on the floor. So that way, that really helps me out a lot too, to show that, like, hey, even though I am in management, I'm still one of you guys. I still want to help you out and do the job.
So are you still working as well? Are you able to work on the planes as well? Or are you just guiding and teaching and working with new folks, new trainees, or do you get to still do the work?
I'm mostly guiding and training. I don't get to do as much work on the planes. I don't get to do full overhauls anymore, which that pulls on my heartstrings quite a bit. Everybody in the shop, they're like, do you miss painting? And I'm like, yes, I do. I do. Like, almost crying. It's like, I just want to paint a plane one more time.
Oh,
And so, like, that pulls at my heartstrings quite a bit, but I mostly just guide and train and fill in whenever I can. Like if everybody's at a good level, I'll just start bouncing around from team to team. We have a total of 3 teams, and we have 2 large plane teams and a small plane team. And I'll just ask around and be like, hey, do you need my help here? What can I do? Do you need me to fill in for someone for painting? And I actually got the chance to do that on Friday. I got to help paint stripes on an aircraft. So I
nice.
was like, that was nice to be back in the saddle.
She's running around like, please, can I help? Please, please,
Yeah,
let me paint the
pretty
plane.
much.
I feel like I was that way when I had my repair shop because I was running the business. I didn't have time to turn wrenches. I wasn't getting to fix customer cars, and my staff, they could see it. I would walk out in the shop and they could see that I was just like itching to turn a wrench. Like I just wanted to touch a car, and they're like, "Give her
Yeah.
something to do." Let her touch that car. Let her work on something. Because it does. I miss it. Do you think you'll want to go back to doing that more full time, or do you like the training side and think you want to keep going down that path, or up in the air still?
Kind of up in the air still. I really like training, and I want to go as far with it as I can and see how far I can really get into management, how far I can move up and kind of test myself and push myself. But I want to work in the paint shop for at least 3 to 5 years, and then I ultimately want to work in structures. I loved working with sheet metal and composites while in college, and I'm still itching to do that too. So there's structures technicians at Duncan Aviation. They work specifically in that, whether it's avionics based, working on the dashboards and the cockpits, or doing structural repairs on aircraft, like out on the floor. And that job seems like it's so much fun. So that's kind of next steps in a few years.
You've got quite the plan. I like it. Your parents raised you right. Good job, mom and dad.
Yes, they did.
Are they proud of their girl?
Oh, they are. I miss my parents deeply. They have supported me so much through life in general. Like my dad said it to me before, if I want something, I'm going to go get it. And they have supported me to no end. And it's great to have that. I know a lot of other people throughout this world do not have great support from their parents, and I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah. Cheers to that. It is definitely
Yes, cheers to that.
Yes. So you're out in Michigan all alone, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How has
Yep.
that been? Like you really uprooted and started a whole new adventure all alone. How was that? How's that been for you?
I feel like I'm living like the Facebook meme. It's like, I just want to get out of my hometown and start a new life. But it's been treating me very well. I was very nervous at first. It's like, oh, this is a new town. I don't know anybody. What am I going to do? How am I going to occupy my time? And I was so nervous, but I was so focused on next steps that I didn't really allow myself to get nervous all that much. Just like, there's something to do. I just got to keep pushing. And once I got here, I was overloaded with work all the time. I had plenty of paychecks where I had done like 110 hours in 2 weeks. And that was fairly consistent for my first like 4 to 5 months working here. And then it kind of slowed down a little bit as it went. It was just very busy that season, but just having work, I loved it. It's even right now, like we have a gym at Duncan Aviation that for all the employees to use. It's like I'll go to the gym and just it's overlooking the ramp, and there's so many aircraft sitting outside there, and I just love being at work. Being around the aircraft is so like calming for me. Like I feel like a bit of a nut when I say that, but it's true. But
No, I think it's awesome. It may be, but I think it's awesome.
but I just consumed myself with my work for a good portion of after living here for a little bit, and then I started making some friends at work, and then friends of friends, and then I was really big into horses back in Pennsylvania. I had a horse of my own growing up, and it was something that I really wanted to get back into once I was stable and financially stable, especially. And now I'm actually doing that. I actually just finalized a lease with a horse, and he's the cutest thing ever. So now I can get back into horses and really find my comfort there too.
Congratulations. Like
Thank
seriously,
you.
it is no small feat to be your age, where you're at, to feel financially secure, to be in that position, to have a horse. Um, to be in a job that you love so much and excelling as quickly as you are is just absolutely impressive and phenomenal. And such a
Thank you.
trades too, right? Like we hear so often that the trades are like that's not a good opportunity. It's not a good career path. It's not a good way to make a life for yourself. But like y'all, like
I think it's the best way to make a life and a living for yourself. The absolute best way. Even at Duncan, I've seen so many more women coming through those doors and working out on the floor. There was a time, like a few months into working, and there was just like women everywhere in the hangars. I'm like, where did all these people come from? And even that in itself is really, really nice to see. Like, granted, in the paint shop, it's myself and two other girls that are working in paint, but I don't see them all too much, but it's still nice to have that support, that female support in there too.
Are they actively recruiting for women that you're
Mhm.
seeing more women there? Okay, so they're like actively seeking out that diversity.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have it's called the DE and I committee, diversity,
Equity.
equality, and inclusion, and I'm a member of that committee. And so we've been doing learn it lunches, and so we for about an hour we either supply lunch or like a little snack or something, and then a short little video about some culture or ethnicity, gender, kind of geared towards aviation. And we show a video about it, and then we have an open discussion. And so based on whoever comes, we sit there and go back and forth and get everybody's viewpoints on it. And it's nice because there's myself and I think one other girl that's involved in it as well, and a couple other people of all genders and cultures that are within this committee. And it's enterprise wide for all facilities.
Wow. That's super cool. Good on them and good on you for sitting on that committee.
Yes.
You're just more and more impressive like every second. What don't you do?
That's not a lot.
Well, you're not a vet.
No.
What finally made that decision? I've got to ask you that. What finally like sealed the deal where you're like, okay, I'm not going to do the vet thing. I'm going to go do collision and figure that out.
I loved working with animals so much. I didn't want to have it as a job to the point where I was going to hate it. I saw it in myself and I'm like, I love this too much. Like, working with animals was my release. It was my pride and joy, the way I could escape from the world. Working with horses, I worked on a dairy farm for a year milking cows, and just that in itself, I loved it. And I didn't want to have like a job working in that career, like make me hate working with animals anymore. Plus the schedule working with aviation was much more flexible and a lot more money in aviation rather than being a vet tech and then having to be even more in school debt with wanting to become a vet.
That's fair. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So little bit of the love and the passion side and a little bit of the financial side. Are there any when you wonder if your life would be different or what it would look like if you had made the different decision? Or no regret?
I haven't really thought about it. No regret.
Good.
Yeah, no regret.
Good.
Because I think everything worked out pretty well. I love the career that I chose. I wouldn't change it for the world. There's not a day that goes by where I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to actually be a vet. But I'm still getting the opportunities to work with animals, even now that I've put it upon myself. It's like, I want to get back into horses. I'm going to do it. So now I've reached that level now. So now I'm more into my comfort zone.
Creating the opportunities for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. All right, let's talk about the nitty gritty about what you do. There's the training side of things, and you've talked a little bit about that, like helping everybody out, kind of being of service. Tell me about what painting airplanes is like. Like, you've done the collision restoration side in school a little bit, so you've experienced that. How different is it doing an airplane versus a car? Are there different techniques, different policies, different regulations? It's in the sky. It's got to be, right?
Yes, it's similar in very few ways, but mostly different. Okay. So what's nice about Duncan, we can get a plane out no matter what size. We have small to ultra large jets. If you ever look up a Global Express, that's like the biggest plane that we can fit into our paint hangars.
Okay.
But that goes down to our service hangars, and you can have that plane plus 6 other ones surrounded by it, because we only work on one plane at a time in our paint hangars. Okay. We have 3. We have a strip hangar that's essentially 2 combined into 1, and then we have two paint hangers. One's a backdraft, and then one's a downdraft booth.
So like the entire
And we are,
paint booth.
huh?
So the entire hangar is a paint booth, essentially.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we are able to get a plane out in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
No matter what size, 2 weeks.
From start to finish.
Yep.
Wow.
It's still mind-boggling to me. I do it every day, and it's just like it's the same thing over and over. But it's like that we literally just started working on that plane last week, and it's going to be delivered to the customer like 2 to 3 weeks later. And so I'll give you a rundown of what our process is.
Yeah, please.
So the plane comes into we call it our strip hangar, and it comes to our strip hangar the weekend before we really start our process. And so we have shifts running 24/7 essentially. We have a day shift, second shift, a night shift, and a weekend shift. And so our weekend shift, they come in, they cover every area that can't be touched by chemical stripper. So they cover up any seams, windows, and composite panels, landing gear, very delicate areas of the aircraft, cover them up, and then apply 2 layers of stripper onto it throughout the weekend, and then completely wash it off and remove all of the protective that was on it. And then once our day shift comes in, like myself and all the other techs that I work with, once our day shift comes in on Monday, it's our metal etch day. And so we are metal sanding the entire aircraft, getting rid of any leftover primer paint left onto the aircraft surface that didn't get stripped. And then we're also sanding all the composites down to essentially the last layer of primer. So that way we have a nice, smooth, even surface to paint over top of, or to prime over top of.
Wow.
And then we clean out seams, and like the metal etch days is the first day where you can really make your section stand out and be clean. And then we do an etch and aladyne as well. So that's the first protective layer that we put onto the aircraft skin. Aircraft go through so many rules and regulations in paint and service in general. There are mil specs that we have to follow, certain brands that we're only allowed to use, certain paints that have to get painted onto certain parts of the aircraft. And so our first layer of protection, we do etch and aladyne, and it's essentially preventing the aluminum from going back to its original state. And so we apply those, let it soak overnight, remove all the masking, let it drip dry essentially.
Okay.
And then we have our third shift come in, they redo all the masking. And then once our day shift comes back in, we have covered up all the bright work, so the leading edges of the aircraft and windows, sensitive areas that can't be painted. That's all covered. And then we wipe down the aircraft on Tuesday, and that's our primer day. So we'll do a coat of green corrosion resistant primer, and then 2 coats of filler primer. And then once spraying primer is done, everybody gets to go home for the day because there's nothing else to do. and And then Wednesdays are miscellaneous days.
Okay.
And so the customer, they can choose whether or not they want their landing gear painted, flight control wells, and the main entry door. The main entry door is, like, you know the main door that you use to get onto the aircraft at the terminal?
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Okay.
So we'll paint the inside of that, so that way they have very clean, nice white steps going into their beautiful interior of the aircraft. And so they have the option to paint those, and we'll usually do that on our Wednesdays and scuff it, protect everything with masking, scuff it and paint it. And then our Thursdays are our prep days. And so the whole day we're sanding primer, making everything nice and smooth. We actually do use Bondo and Fill Bond on the aircraft as well.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of people are like, use Bondo on aircraft? It's like, yeah, we do. We have to make sure everything is nice and smooth and clean so that way none of the airfoil gets disrupted.
I can't imagine blocking a plane. Like, you mentioned sections. So you have like these like different areas that is your area while you're working on it? Like, okay. So
yeah, so we have
So multiple people on the same plane doing their section of it. at any point does it all get blended from one section to the next? Like you body working into the next section, or how are the sections broken down?
Mhm. So we have our fuselage section, which is pretty much from the nose of the aircraft to the wing and over the wing.
Okay.
And then we have guys that work on the wings themselves, the bottom and the tops of them. And then we have 2 to 3 people working on the tail of the aircraft. So there's this thing, it's called a pylon. It's pretty much the main connection point from the engine to the actual fuselage of the aircraft. And so we'll have people working below the pylon on the floor, and then working above the pylon, standing on the aircraft. And then we'll have another person working in a lift, working on the back end of the tail.
I need to come visit.
And we'll have that same on both sides.
I totally need to come out and see this in action. This is fascinating. I just looked up at the time and we're like getting close to our hour, but I'm like so fascinated by this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So how can people like come and get involved in this, in doing this professionally? You talked about an apprenticeship program. Are they coming and getting trained by you if they become an apprentice? Is that what happens?
Yeah, as long as they want to come work for the paint shop, they'll definitely be getting trained by me.
Awesome.
But if anybody wants to come work for Duncan Aviation, we have I think it's duncanaviation.aero. That is our main website, and we have a careers page, and that shows all the job opportunities available for each location for Duncan, plus each department. So if somebody really likes sewing, they can go sew aircraft seats for a living. We're doing, I think, hydroponics and vinyl and other graphics for interiors of aircraft as well. So you can do that, or working in cabinetry. If you really like turbine engines, that's also an option too. Like the options are endless for aviation. And pretty much just submitting an application and just inquiring in general too. There's contact information to talk to somebody about how to get involved. But even if you know anybody that would love to work for Duncan, I would love to recruit and talk more.
I might. Shoot. You've got me.
Yeah, we're constantly giving tours of the place too.
I definitely want to come out and check it out. After this build is done, when I'm done with this build, I'm going to go check some stuff out. And yeah, that's on my list. I've got to see this. And the company needs to hire you as their spokesperson. Like you're doing a wonderful job promoting them. So we are out of time. I do want to do a final question to you, which I always like to end on, which is what if you had the opportunity to talk to the younger you or another young girl out there, or even a young boy out there who wants to do what you're doing, what is your advice and recommendations to them?
Be persistent, be proud of your work, and put yourself out there. Definitely get out of your comfort zone. That is called a comfort zone for a reason. You're in your little humble abode, and just be able to escape out of that gives you so many opportunities. Even if anybody has an opportunity to take advantage of it, definitely do it, because it could be life-changing. And also just be kind to everyone you meet. There's a lot of people out there who are just have an attitude, so many, like all day, and just being kind and courteous to people and really being proud of who you are and what you do that's a major thing to really get ahead in life.
Phenomenal. Very well said. Absolutely 100% true. You're an incredible young woman.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed by you. I'm sure your family is incredibly proud of you. I'm proud of you, and I don't even know you. I'm excited to see how your career continues to unfold. I know it's going to be only wonderful things, and I'm so intrigued by what you do. I need to come out and visit. I'm definitely going to come and check it out, and who knows, maybe
yes, please.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so very much for coming and hanging out with me. Keep kicking ass and taking names. Everybody tuned in and hung out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out and spending some time. And make sure you go give her a follow, show her some support, check out her company, check out what they're doing. If you're interested in aviation, lots of great recommendations here. And thank you for hanging out and tuning in. Make sure you come back next week. We'll meet another amazing tradeswoman. And of course, as always, this one, along with all of the past ones, will live in my IGTV tab. So you can watch all of the past episodes if you're ever needing a little boost of motivation or inspiration, or just to meet some cool women. Go check it out. And until then, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and we'll see you later. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.